I'm standing here in an old cemetery in the Scottish Highlands. The stones are weathered, the names barely legible. Some of these people died 300 years ago. And I'm thinking, what were they so worried about? You know, I've spent 58 years on this planet. I've watched people I love disappear. I've felt that cold grip of fear when I think about my own ending. We all have. It's the great human terror, isn't it? Death. The final curtain. The ultimate tragedy. But what if we've been thinking about it all wrong? Today, I want to share with you an idea that changed everything for me. It's not new, in fact, it's ancient. But it's also radical, challenging, and perhaps liberating. The idea is this: death is not the end of the film, it's leaving the cinema. Let me explain what I mean. But first, I need you to do something for me. I need you to remember the last time you watched a truly captivating film. One that pulled you in so completely that you forgot where you were. You forgot about your problems, your identity, even your body sitting in that chair. For 90 minutes, 2 hours, you were that character. You felt their fear, their joy, their heartbreak. And then, the credits rolled, the lights came up, and you stretched, maybe rubbed your eyes, and returned to yourself. You walked out into the lobby, perhaps discussed the film with friends, and went home. Did you mourn the end of the movie? Perhaps a little, if it was beautiful. But did you experience it as a tragedy? As an annihilation? Of course not. Because you knew something fundamental. You were never really in danger. You were never really that character. You were always the one watching. This is what the mystics have been trying to tell us for millennia. What Alan Watts spent his life articulating. What the Vedantic philosophers called Maya, the grand illusion. We are not separate beings having a temporary experience. We are the eternal experiencing itself through temporary forms. Think about it this way. Right now, you believe you are a person. You have a name, a history, a personality. You have memories that stretch back to childhood. You have hopes for the future. You have this strong, visceral sense of being you, a separate individual navigating through a world of other separate individuals. But let me ask you something. Where did this you come from? Before you were born, where were you? And don't just say nowhere, or I didn't exist. Really think about it. The atoms that make up your body existed. The consciousness that animates you existed. The universe was here. So what exactly wasn't here? The answer is, the story of you wasn't here. The narrative, the character, the role you're currently playing in this cosmic drama. You see, you're not a noun, you're a verb. You're not a thing that exists, you're a happening. You're something the universe is doing right now, in this particular location, just as it's doing tree over there and cloud up there and ocean beyond those hills. I'm sitting now on one of these old gravestones. Forgive me, whoever you were, I mean no disrespect. In fact, I'm honoring you by recognizing what you really were. Not the name carved in this stone, but the same eternal presence that's speaking these words right now through this body called Adrian. The great terror of death comes from identifying with the character. We think we are Adrian, or Sarah, or James, or whoever. And if we are that person, then death is annihilation. It's the end of everything we know, everything we are. It's oblivion. But what if you're not the character? What if you're the awareness in which the character appears? What if you're the screen on which the movie plays, not the images flickering across it? Let's go deeper into this cinema metaphor because it's not just a clever analogy. It's pointing to something real about the nature of consciousness and death. When you're watching a film, really absorbed in it, something extraordinary happens. Your sense of being a separate viewer dissolves. You're not thinking, "I am John Smith sitting in seat D7 eating popcorn." You're in the story. You're experiencing it from the inside. The character on screen is afraid. You feel fear. They fall in love. You feel that warmth in your chest. Someone dies. You might actually cry. Real tears for fictional people. Now here's the crucial point. The character on screen doesn't know they're in a movie. They can't see the projector, the screen, the audience. From their perspective, their world is all there is. Their problems are ultimate. Their death would be the end of everything. But you know better. You know that when the hero dies in the film, nothing has actually been lost. The actor goes home. The story was always just a story. The light was always just light, dancing in patterns. This is what birth and death are. Birth is when the universe, which is what you really are, becomes so absorbed in a particular story that it forgets its true nature. It's the lights going down in the cinema. It's the moment you stop being the awareness watching and you become the character living. And death. Death is when the story ends, the lights come up, and you remember, "Oh, right, I was never really in danger. I was never really separate. I was always the whole thing, just pretending to be a part." You might be thinking, "But Adrian, this sounds like you're saying nothing matters. If we're all just characters in a cosmic movie, why care about anything? Why not just give up?" But that's exactly backwards. When you watch a film, does knowing it's a film make it less moving? Does it make the beauty less beautiful, the drama less engaging? Of course not. In fact, the best films are the ones that make you forget they're films, that pull you in completely. Life is like that. The game is to play it fully, to be completely absorbed, to care deeply, while somewhere in the background, there's a quiet knowing that it's all a magnificent play, that you're safe, that you've always been safe. The Hindus have a word for this, Lila, the divine play, God playing hide and seek with himself, the universe pretending to be separate things so it can experience the joy of discovery, of relationship, of drama. I want to tell you about my father. He died 7 years ago, cancer. I was with him at the end. For months, I watched him shrink. This man who had been so vital, so present, became a whisper of himself. And in those final weeks, I was terrified. Not just of losing him, but of what it meant. If this could happen to him, it would happen to me. This body I walk around in, this mind I think with. All of it, temporary. All of it, headed for the same dissolution. I was there when he took his last breath. And I'll tell you something strange. In that moment, I didn't feel what I expected to feel. Yes, there was grief. Yes, there was loss. But there was also something else, a sense of rightness, of completion. It was like watching the last scene of a beautiful film. You don't want it to end, but you also recognize that it's supposed to end, that the ending is part of what makes it beautiful. And then, in the days after, something shifted in me. I started to feel my father everywhere. Not in some supernatural sense. I'm not talking about ghosts or spirits. But I'd see his expressions in my own face in the mirror. I'd hear his phrases coming out of my mouth. I'd notice his way of thinking emerging in my thoughts. Where had he gone? Nowhere. He'd just stopped being a separate wave and returned to being the ocean. And the ocean was still here, still moving, still expressing itself in new forms. This is what the Buddhists mean when they talk about no self. It's not that you don't exist, it's that you don't exist in the way you think you do. You're not a separate, isolated entity. You're a temporary pattern that the universe is making. Like a whirlpool in a river, it's real, it's there, but it's not separate from the river. It is the river, just doing a particular dance for a while. And when the whirlpool dissolves, the water doesn't go anywhere. It was always the river. It just stops being that particular pattern. This is why the mystics say that enlightenment is not about gaining something, but about losing something, losing the illusion of separation. It's about waking up from the dream of being a separate self and recognizing what you've always been, the dreamer. But let's be honest, even if you understand this intellectually, the fear doesn't just disappear, does it? I still feel it sometimes. That clutch in the stomach when I think about my own death. That resistance, and I think that's okay. In fact, I think it's part of the game. The fear of death is what makes the game exciting. It's what gives the story stakes. Imagine watching a film where the characters knew they were in a film and couldn't really die. It'd be boring. The drama requires the forgetting, so the fear of death isn't a mistake. It's not something to be eliminated. It's part of how the universe creates intensity, meaning urgency in this particular game called human life. But, and this is crucial, you can hold the fear lightly. You can feel it without being consumed by it. You can recognize it as part of the character's experience while also touching something deeper that isn't afraid. I'm leaving the cemetery now, walking back toward the village, and I'm thinking about all those people under those stones, all those stories that played out, all that drama, that love, that suffering, that joy. All of it gone now. At least the particular forms are gone. But the essence, the consciousness that looked out through those eyes, where could it go? Consciousness doesn't exist in space, so it can't leave. It doesn't exist in time, so it can't end. It's the context in which space and time appear. You are that consciousness. Not the body. The body is what consciousness is doing. Not the mind. The mind is what consciousness is thinking. You are the awareness itself, the unchanging background against which all change happens. And that awareness doesn't die. It can't die. It's what death appears in. This is the great secret, the one that's been hidden in plain sight all along. You're not going to die because you were never born. The real you, the awareness, the consciousness, the presence, has always been here and will always be here. Only the character dies, only the story ends. And when it does, it's not a tragedy, it's a completion. It's the satisfaction of a story well told. It's the relief of taking off a heavy costume. It's the joy of remembering who you really are. So here's what I want you to take from this. Not as a belief, beliefs are just more stories, but as an invitation to look, to investigate your own experience. Right now, as you're listening to these words, there's awareness happening. There's a knowing of the words, a seeing of whatever you're seeing, a feeling of whatever you're feeling. That awareness, can you find its boundaries? Can you locate where it begins or ends? Can you find a time when it wasn't here? You'll find that you can't, because awareness isn't an object, it's not a thing, it's what all things appear in. It's what you really are. And if that's what you really are, this boundless, timeless awareness, then what is there to fear in death? The body will stop. The mind will stop. The story of you will end. But the awareness, it was never born, so it cannot die. You know, I said at the beginning that I'm 58 years old. And that's true for the character. But the awareness speaking through this character, it has no age. It's the same awareness that looked out through my eyes when this body was 5 years old. The same awareness that's looking out through your eyes right now, whatever age you are. We're not separate beings having the same kind of experience. We're the same being having apparently separate experiences. We're the universe playing all the parts in its own cosmic drama. And death? Death is just intermission. It's the pause between acts. It's when you get up, stretch your legs, remember you're in a theater, and prepare for the next show. Or maybe there is no next show. Maybe death is the end of all shows, and you simply remain as what you've always been, the eternal, unchanging awareness. The screen that needs no movies, the silence that needs no sound. Either way, you're safe. You've always been safe, because the real you can't be threatened, it can't be harmed, it can't be lost. I'm going to end with this. Tonight, when you lie down to sleep, pay attention to that moment when you drift off. That moment when you dissolve into unconsciousness. It happens every night, and you're not afraid of it. You don't mourn it. You welcome it. Sleep is a little death, and every morning is a little rebirth. You've been practicing for the big death your whole life, every single night, and every morning you wake up and you're still here. The awareness returns, the show goes on. Death will be like that. The character will sleep. And the awareness, it will do what it's always done. It will be, timelessly, effortlessly, eternally. You are not the movie. You are not the character. You are the light that makes the movie possible. You are the space in which all stories unfold. You are the eternal witness, the unchanging presence, the consciousness that can never be born and can never die. And when this particular story ends, when the credits roll on this life, you'll stretch, smile, and say, "Wow, that was something." And then, who knows, maybe another film, maybe silence, maybe something beyond our current imagination. But whatever it is, you'll be there. Because you're always there. You're what there is. Death is not the end of the film, it's leaving the cinema. And leaving the cinema isn't a tragedy. It's a return, a remembering, a coming home. You've never left home. You just forgot for a while that you were there. Welcome back.